start off with the game between Vanderbilt and Wake Forest to start us off here for week 3, week 2, whatever you want to call it. This one is actually an 1 hour early start in this one, 11 Eastern and 8 a.m. Pacific. So hopefully we'll be off the air before this one before this game starts between Vandy and Wake. All right, let's get into it a little bit here. Hopefully you got your picks right. And it didn't go too well last week with the comments, so hopefully we'll get in a little bit routine where we know when the we're doing college football and you guys will be ready. And I know you guys probably want to see a game. A lot of people want to see a game. So, all right. I do want to give me 1 second. Let me kill myself slowly with some more soda pop. I'm sure some of my cohorts are saying how I can talk for 2 hours. I know a couple other guys that do it though, and especially my main man, the king of these YouTube streams, and our guy too. Don't forget about our guys. All right. Oh, one more before we go here on this. I did see some steam coming in on a baseball game right now, and it's totally opposite what I said. But it's only going to create a little bit of value for me because I see a game that's headed right now to an 11. I'm showing a couple books putting up an 11 right now on that game showing 2 games taking over steam right now. One of them we have the over, Giants and Cubs. Talked about that win, talked about yesterday. I'm starting to see 11s for the Giants and the Cubs game. And I'm also starting to see 11s in the Mets and the Nationals. 11s, you guys. We're not even in Chicago in this game. This is just going to be what's going to be happening, it feels like, in September. Let's get to the football. I mean, this is, we got to get out of here. All right. Last year, Wake Forest led this game by 25 points when Swan came off the bench, threw a couple of TD passes, and Wake Forest ended up winning the game 45-25. They were a 13-point favorite. So Swan kind of brought them back a little bit, but it was the Deacons that still got it. Vandy last week, they led Hawaii by 21 points, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it is now, and then they allowed a couple of drives by the Rainbows. They ended up winning by just 7. Last week, they had another slow start. They led 12-3 at halftime, but ended up blowing out my Alabama A&M team 47-13. That was not a cover. They won by 34. They were favored by 36. So Wake Forest, they played Elon. They beat them. They were 27-0 in the third quarter. Elon had a 76-yard drive. They had a pick 6. They kicked a field goal on the final play of the game. Wake Forest is a 31-point favorite, 137-17. So Wake Forest. Their quarterback, Griffiths, has started 2 games, but you got to wonder with Swan in here, I would think at this time, I think that's what's going on in this game. Here they're getting still double digits. The move has been on Vandy. This one opened, I thought, as high as 14. It's now down to 10.5. I think the value is probably out the window here with Vandy, but it feels like this is the way that I kind of still want to go. I'm just going to call up the lines. I don't think, just to keep the order here, I don't think there's been any blind movement on these games this morning. I'm showing 10, 57.5. Oh, cost myself a half a point here, maybe by taking a peek at this one. Going with an offshore book. Maybe you can get depends what you're looking for here in this one, but depends. It looks like I can only get 10 if I want to take Vandy here. feel like I still want to go with Vandy in this one. And maybe you guys have some comments here. Wake Forest is on a bit of a good stretch right now. I think they've won 11 of their last 15 as a home favorite, but this coach is 7-3 as an underdog. I've got to think Vandy can stay in there within a touchdown against Wake. It doesn't feel like an overwhelming game. It's 9 on DraftKings. Look at this. All right. Thanks, Doubles. Yeah, we're gonna run over here. You guys have got some hey, lovable plays. Nice to see you. You guys can put your other plays in the chat on the other, and we'll get to Colorado here. Brent says maybe Wake here. This is the best price. And look, if it's a 9 now, boy, I better get on something here. I'm going to take Vandy plus 10, I guess. Frederick says he's going under in this one. I'm not so sure about that. I might even be saving this. I feel like if it is Swan, I feel like maybe there could be more off. I respect Wake a little bit defensively, but you see some of the numbers that they've been put up. These aren't great. Great teams. We know that. So give me Vandy in this one. All right. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out. No, Mike, these are Saturday. I got to get started early. I can't sit on Saturday, and I'm trying to get to every game. Tony does every game as well, but I want to have a pick out there in every game if I can. And get started early. I'm not going to sit there on Saturday and do 50 games. Usually I cover the early games throughout the week and then the late games on Saturday. Appreciate you. Notre Dame and whoops. Wake Forest is going to have a tough time. They're going to have the A squad and B squad. This is Notre Dame and North Carolina State, you guys. We know that. Notre Dame favored on the road, minus 7.5. Total 57.5. I show Notre Dame open maybe around 6 points. This total opened as the total is totally wrong also. So, man, maybe it wasn't a good time to start. Please ignore the 57. There were never any 57s. You guys can obviously see I was copy and pasting off the other line or something. This is Notre Dame 7.5, total 51 here. This total opened about 48.5. So we're seeing a little bit of a move to the over here in this one. I'll take a look and try to make sure I can focus in. Maybe I can get – last week I didn't really cover any hardcore steam moves, but I will tell you this, that let me tell you that first game, the steam came in obviously on Vandy. There was reported steam. It also did come in on the under. Here in this one, we've only seen widely reported steam quite actually on the under, and it was under this number. So there is definitely some impressive resistance here on this total. And I don't know if it's going to be going any lower. Right now, it's juice to the over. So let me cover this one now with Notre Dame and NC State. This will be for the considering what the games that Notre Dame just had. This is a tough game, right? They beat Navy 42-3 as a 20-point favorite. They beat Tennessee State 56-3. They were favored by 48.5. Hartman, he's looked absolutely terrific so far against those numbnuts of teams. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. And obviously, he's faced North Carolina State before. In the game for when he was with Wake Forest, when he played against NC State in 2021, he was intercepted 3 times. In 2022, he was intercepted 3 times again. But I think things are maybe a little bit different when you're on Notre Dame. North Carolina State did win 2 of those 3 games, interestingly enough, against Hartman at Wake Forest. But Hartman looks terrific. He's on that Heisman board right now at this point, right, with those other guys. So North Carolina State, we saw them beat UConn 24-14 in week 1. They didn't cover the spread. I think we were pretty right on with what happened in that game. The Pack only outgained the Huskies 364-320. So they do have pretty good quarterback in Armstrong, the Virginia transfer. He can run and pass. He ran for 2 touchdowns and he threw for 155 yards, ran for almost 100 yards. So NC State, they've covered 3 straight as an underdog. So Hartman, man, I just can't get over how good he's looked. But I don't know, it just feels like when you end up at Notre Dame, and we'll see. Notre Dame really is, as an away favorite, they're money. I got to be honest with you. They've been really hot as a road favorite. But can they get this one? Man, I'm not so sure of that. Let's see what you guys have to say. Maybe you can get a feel for what I'm doing. I don't think I want Notre Dame actually as that. I know they've got a great record as a road favorite. I like Thomas is the only comment. So. No, I think we can all say that Hartman looked great, but let's consider the competition. Yeah, look, I was on Navy in that first game, right? No, that was a cluster. So I'm going to take NC State in this one. I'm going to take 7.5. They keep it within 1 score here against them. I think I'm going to pump the brakes just a little bit on Hartman. I think NC State has film on Hartman, if you will. Is Notre Dame going to go out here schlucking the rock all over? Maybe, but I'm going to take NC State as a home dog here against Notre Dame. And we're going in order of the rotation order. Noontime starts. Here's Ball State at Georgia. Well, Georgia's a 42.5-point favorite. This total is 53. Well, that's kind of easy to figure out, right? I'm not going to do it. It's a little bit tricky. These are always fun if you can hit the side and the total on games like this. All right, let's see here. There's been some reported, no necessarily hardcore steam necessarily to report in this one. I showed Georgia opening as low as 39, and this total has been pretty much all over the place, settling here at 53. I think it went as high as 56.5. I'm not sure why it might have come down. Let's take a look at this one with these 2 teams have never played. I mean, this is payday city for Ball State here coming into Athens. This is another warm-up game here, I would guess, for Georgia. Hope we can get rid of these games soon, but I guess we never can. We've got to pay these schools. Last week, Georgia, look, they rested players. I think they kind of held them out, get some other players. That's a good plan. I mean, you're playing teams. They sat out their 2 of their top 3 running backs or 2 top wide receivers didn't play. Mondon, the great linebacker, hardly got in there. And they didn't look that good. There was 17-0 Georgia at halftime when they against UT Martin. Georgia did win the game 41-7. Martin came down with that touchdown on the final drive. So you'd think that they could be ready here, but Georgia next week plays South Carolina in their conference opener. So we're adding an extra field goal on here to get up to 42.5 off of a 39. Let's see, Ball, they led Kentucky 7-3 in the first half last week, but then their top player on defense injured his leg. I think he's out now. So he's a linebacker. Pretty sure he's their best player, Clayton Cole. So it helped allow the Wildcats to kind of pull away in the second half. Ball State was actually getting the money until Kentucky got a 30-yard touchdown with 6 seconds left. So final score 44-14. Kentucky ended up getting the money in that one, laying 25.5. Ball State 10-6 is a road dog. Georgia, might be the kicker for me. Georgia 1-10 as a non-conference favorite of 35 points or more. So figure with conference play on deck, everybody gets in the game. I'm going to take Ball State plus 42.5. I think Georgia could name the score, but I believe in the situation like this, second non-conference game of the preseason. Look, I imagine it will probably go over and Georgia will get their money, but I think Ball State, I think they showed a little bit of fortitude. I think they can, even in Athens, maybe they get that second score, get this money. I'm taking Ball State. Like I said, Georgia 1-10 as a non-conference favorite of 5 touchdowns or more in their last 7 occurrences in that role. Let's take a look at if you guys got anything on this. And Thomas says 43-0. That would be Georgia and under, and I'm pretty much the other way. But again, right? It's tough. Right? You could be sitting there, Thomas and I could be watching this game at 45-0, and then the next score is going to could get me home, or it could get, if I don't get it, Thomas gets home. So this is what it's going to be when you see these SEC versus other team games. All right, interesting game here. You got the Dukes on the road as a favorite here. How about that? We know that Virginia undergoing a little bit of transition here to a certain extent. If they're going to be a underdog, look, James Madison. We know that when they were in 1AA, they were a power. I think their football program pretty well established. Not going to have any problem here talking about James Madison, a pretty good program. Virginia, hey, they're Virginia. I mean, they've had their ups and downs, but they've had some ups. So let's take a peek at this one with these two teams as we get ready here. You'd think that these teams would meet more often, but they don't. This is just this is the first time they've met since 40 years. 40 years, I think it said. I'm trying to remember now. So Virginia will be an underdog here. Their quarterback is out for this game. He left last week's game. They lost to Tennessee 49-13. Tennessee got the money. They were 27.5-point favorites, and Musket had a shoulder injury. So they also didn't have their best defensive lineman last week. Their backup quarterback, he left the team to go play baseball, so now they're going to end up starting a true freshman here. He played last week. He had 7 attempts. He had just 12 yards passing. So that's the problem here with Virginia this season, and that's why you see Madison here as a touchdown favorite. Still could be a little bit too high. I mean, you still got to have some respect here for Virginia, I would think. Maybe we could compare Madison. They played Louisville last year and lost 34-10 as a 7-point dog, but that was late in the season. I believe might not be a good representation of what happened in that. It could maybe compare. I'm just trying to find some equivalent here. Last week, the Dukes were outgained 204-187 against Bucknell. But then they came back and totally owned the second half. They had 250 yards and limited Bucknell to just 21 yards. Ended up winning the game 38-3. They were a 42.5-point favorite. So, James Madison, road favorite here against. I'm probably going to have to lean to Virginia here. Let's see what you guys. Are you guys? Anybody in the chat liking the? I know you guys are just hanging out with me. All right, it's just me here at this point. I know I got still 6 of you watching, so we'll continue. Just there'll be no picks on the chat here at this point. But for me, I'm going to take Virginia in this one. Give me a touchdown against the Dukes. They'll figure it out. They've got some defense. May end up trickling over. I think that the perception might be the under here. We'll see. All right. Thank you. Oh, thank you guys. Just yeah. Good job, Daryl. Thank you. Glad you had a good day. I should have listened to you, Daryl. I know we were on a couple together, but I don't think I had as good a day as you. All right, here's a good one. Purdue. I think it's a good one. Purdue and Virginia Tech. In this one, I'm showing Purdue here, an underdog by 3 points. How about that? Is that right? Wow. That is kind of a move here, I think, to Virginia Tech. Man, when's that move coming? I might have to go back and look at the line movement itself. All right. Now, let me just cover the game here with the preview. I don't want to keep you guys waiting and have a bunch of dead air there while I'm trying to look up line histories on the screen. If we had Mindy here, I would do it. All right. For Purdue against Virginia Tech. Well, it's going to be quite an adventure, I guess, for Purdue. You saw last week they were rocking at the beginning of the game. They were rocking during the game against Old Dominion. It never gets old to watch Virginia Tech with their opening portion of the game. Don't like the fact that they've moved to such a field goal favorite here against Purdue. It does feel a little bit uncomfortable, but Grant Wells, 3 TD passes. Purdue gave up 371 yards last week to Fresno State at home, right? Fresno State came out slinging it late. Purdue led 28-13. The offense was fumbling and stumbling and bumbling, and then Fresno State came back, got the go-ahead score with just a minute left in the game. So great comeback for Fresno State and a big choke job at home by Purdue, and now they've got to go into Blacksburg. Feels a bit tough. Purdue, they were outgained 487 to 363 and were out first down to 27-19. Virginia Tech here, probably I think they're probably the better team. Purdue comes in with a new head coach on the road for the first time. So kind of tough laying a field goal here, but man, I don't know. Maybe I was just watching. Maybe I just watch, the intro to Virginia Tech games and you get all fired up. All right. Appreciate it, you guys. Yeah, Daryl, we talked about the game earlier. I went with the total, so appreciate you with the pick there in the WNBA. And what is the total here? 49. I want to be on Virginia Tech. I'm worried about the field goal. I'll probably be on Virginia Tech eventually. Maybe it'll be even a premium the way I talked about it. Let's go over in this one. Over 51. 49. 49, right there on the screen, right in front of my face. I'm going over as my play here on the game with Purdue and Virginia Tech. So I know talk about some defense here, but I'm going to think over 7 touchdowns. All right. It's the game we've all want to talk about with Nebraska and Colorado. And why not Colorado, you guys? Look, everybody wants to make a big deal. They're yelling across. I enjoyed that conversation so much last week, the other day, about what they were talking about. But I am a believer. And look, I don't like what Dion said at the end of at the press conference to Ed Werder. I don't think Dion understands the media. I think, what they've done here they're going up against Nebraska, folks. I'm not giving you Colorado to win the national championship. I'm not giving them to win 6 or 7. I'm giving you Colorado to drub Nebraska. Okay, Colorado went on the road and beat TCU. Oh, TCU, they got slumped in the national championship game. This isn't the same team. Okay, it's not this. Maybe it's some mediocre TCU game that's going to all of a sudden fumble down their way to some 500 record, like they hadn't been good for the last several years anyways, and finally hit that peak moment, their glory moment last year. It sucked that they got crushed. They earned their way to the title game. It was a great, great accomplishment for TCU to reach that moment. Colorado came in, played that. It was a wild game. We all know what happened. What happened, and they get the win. I'm not a believer, Dion. I'm not a believer. So I don't know how else I can say it. What I am a believer in is the fact that Nebraska's coming to town and Colorado can beat Nebraska. Nebraska, I love to bet against Nebraska. Come on, Matt Rule. I'm a Nebraska fan. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm a Colorado fan. I'm a Nebraska fan. I'm going to like 20 teams this year. I'm going to like half the teams half the time. I don't care. But for Nebraska, come on. Not even Matt Rule can turn this around, right? This team has been the biggest underachieving team over the last 2 decades. I don't know how else. They had some nice performances last year, but against this team, this Colorado team, totally surging right now. Nebraska is going to take care of them here. I think. I'm not even going to give out Nebraska here on the air. I'm going to, I'm Nebraska. I mean, Colorado. You guys, I probably should start over because I said it all. I've been saying Nebraska for a couple sentences. Colorado, come on. I don't want any part of Nebraska. I'm a Nebraska fan, and I'm such a Nebraska fan that I'm tired of losing a lot of games on the road with poor execution. Matt Rule should change all that, hopefully, but right away, right now, the way Colorado's turned this situation around, it's no fluke. They're a decent team. They can go 500 here. They can go to a bowl. They can finish over 500. They're not going to win the national championship, but I think they will win more than some of their critics might suggest. This is an old rivalry, really, from the Big Eight. These teams played for like 60 straight years, and then they stopped playing because of the way the conferences went down. And, well, we know what went on with Colorado and the Pac-12 and things moving around. But anyways, let's get into it. The Huskers lost that game to Minnesota. Now, they were an underdog. They got the money. But still, poor execution in close games. I just have a problem with that type of stat as well. Maybe the money line. I don't know. This one's going way over. I don't care about Nebraska having, Rule going to bring back the black shirts and, Nebraska will be back. They better be. They demand it right now. They had a pretty good game against the Gophers. Gophers had just 251 yards in that game and 55 on the ground. Remember, the Gophers had a great running attack. They lost their great running back, but Sims did a pretty good job, but he threw 3 picks, including that one in the end zone in the end of the first half, remember? And the one in Minnesota territory on a drive that they needed to go down the field. So the Gophers kicked that field goal at the end of the game, and for Colorado, well, you saw nothing. I need to tell you, they were 20-point underdogs, right? By the way, so don't forget about that. So they basically overachieved by 23 points in that game. They had 565 yards. When I see record-setting performances by teams that have been around forever, that's a big deal to me. They had 565 yards on the road. We know Sanders had the 510 Colorado record-setting yards, and 4 receivers with 100 yards, including Hunter. Yes, Hunter is going to win the Heisman. If he can get out there for 100 plays
If he can get out there for 100 plays on a 7-5 team, what are you going to do? What are you going to do then? Say he has 5 interceptions and 10 touchdowns. What are you going to do with Travis Hunter? Prime was giving him the Heisman at halftime. So not only did they go on and win that game, that's not even the game they wanted. This is the game they want, of the home game. Sell out the crowd at Folsom Field and ride that Colorado. We know Colorado. They were supporting this team when they sucked. I know because I like Carl Durrell. I'm a Carl Durrell fan. Carl Durrell's my age, a little bit older than me. I've been following him since I was a kid. Did he deserve to get fired? Probably. I'll take the over in this one at 50. It's not 59.5, is it? Okay, it's 59.5. Ugh. I'm having over regret now, but I am going to go over. The whole time I was talking that spiel, I thought it was 55. I typed the numbers in. Guys, I got 6 comments on this game. This will be the most talked about game. All right. No, I'm not talking you off Colorado at all, right? I know I kept saying Nebraska in there, but I'm trying to talk you on Colorado. Or I'm talking you off Colorado because all the, not everybody's on Colorado, right? He's got his detractors. I'd say he like Coach Prime. The players are the one that went out and executed, and they executed quite well with few mistakes, actually. There were a couple glaring mistakes, and the defense is poor. So, thanks, you guys. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Yeah. And the thing about, we talk about Hunter, right? Wasn't like somebody. Remember, that was the big controversy whatever it was, that Prime was able to recruit him down to Jackson State, taking the 5-star recruit away from the Division I schools. We know this was in the plans for Prime. Maybe not Colorado. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he thought he could get a Florida State job. And let me say this about Prime's future. You talk about it, and look, I think he enjoys coaching his son. And who knows how bad a team like Arizona could be. We're going to get Shedeur. I think we'll get him for 2 years. That way Prime can – and if Prime can get out of this situation in just 2 years saying, hey, I turned it around, my kids are gone, and a job opens up, maybe an NFL job in 2 years. It would be unprecedented in a way, but sleep on that one a little bit. How about Prime coaching his son in the NFL? He's got assistants. He brought top assistants. It's not like Coach Prime, oh, this guy's the greatest coach in the world, that's why he's turning around Colorado. He's built the whole thing. All right, enough of that. Colorado we talk about ad nauseum, but I want to get my 2 cents worth in on this situation. And I like Colorado. Go Buffs. And I like Nebraska. Can I like both Colorado and Nebraska? Some people say you can't like more than one team. But, I have a soft spot in my heart for Nebraska, and I do want to see Rule turn it around. It's not because of Mindy either. I've got a closet full of Nebraska gear. I've got I think one thing of Colorado, but I like those white jerseys. Utah and Baylor. Big question marks here surrounding this one, with Utah 7.5-point favorite on the road here, and the total 47. Gonna need to know quarterback status is here certainly for Cam Rising and for Baylor as well. Baylor has quarterback issues coming into this game, but is it really an issue? This is the first time these teams have ever met. Baylor played at home last week. We saw what happened. Lost to Texas State. Huge upset to a certain extent. Now, Baylor was a 27.5-point favorite. Looking back on it now, Texas State, they're supposedly going to be kind of a fast riser here as one of these programs, like maybe the San Antonios. They've gotten into the transfer portal. The Texas State team
all of a sudden they're a team that's going to make some noise that nobody's kind of heard of them a little bit. So big news here for Texas State off that game. Utah beat Florida 2 weeks ago, 24-11. Rising missed that game, so we're going to have to see. It looks like as we get closer to game time and the spread continues to go up here with Utah, that looks like that means Rising is going to play in this one. So we will see. We're going to need to check that status. But Utah was outgained and out first down by Texas State in that game. But Baylor here, home, they can gather their bearings a little bit. They're still playing a good team here, no doubt, in Utah. But they allowed 441 yards to Texas State in that game. So I thought Barnes did a good job for Rising. I mean, obviously it's going to be a step up to get Cam Rising back, but Barnes did the job there, and the defense did the job. Florida was smothered by the defense in that game. So for Baylor, Shapen left the game last week. He has a knee injury. He is questionable as well, so that probably also factors into the line. The total has dropped here all the way to 47 off of a high of 50.5. But look, their backup quarterback is pretty good, Robinson. And remember, in the off season in spring, they were talking about Robinson battling Shapen for the starting job. So we're going to see Robinson here. Robinson, I would think Robinson could be the starting quarterback here in this one for Baylor. I don't think it's a real big downgrade here. If they go to Robertson. Robertson played at Mississippi State, and he's kind of a product of the old air raid a little bit. We know Mississippi State has moved away from the air raid, but Robinson was at Mississippi State for 2 seasons. So we're going to see more of him. So I'm going to take the over in this one with Utah and Baylor. It keeps dropping. I think there's creating some value here. I think because of the Baylor offensive situation, maybe that's why it's dropping. Maybe because maybe that defense will travel. So do you guys have any comments on this one, or can I move on and get this show over with? They're probably all right. Thank you, Thomas. Troy and Kansas State. This is the last game, you guys, that we're going to be previewing here this morning. And then we'll get to it. Mindy, I'm gonna read off to you Mindy's plays. She's just sent them to me. Stay tuned. So the 50 of you here, please, one more game, bear with me. I'm just doing my videos for Tony, basically, and I'm doing them live. Stay tuned for Mindy's picks for today's action. Is that a good tease? Okay, I think who do I got here? Troy and Kansas State. This game was moved up into the noontime slot here in this one. Troy won 48-30 last week against SFA. They dominated, really. They had, I think, more than 300 yards more than the Trojans, but were -3 in the turnover category. So Kansas State shut out Southeast Missouri 45-0, outgained them by 361 yards. Howard looked good. He had the trifecta. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown. So a versatile quarterback is Howard. Troy, they've got Watson at quarterback. They've got Vidal at running back. They've got a pretty good defense. One of the, top like a top 10 kind of defense as far as holding teams below their averages. So that's always a great statistic that I like. Kansas State, they had to replace Vaughn, but Giddens looked good. He had 128 yards last week. He averaged 8.5 yards per carry. Kansas State certainly got a good enough defense to hold down Troy, but you are laying 2 touchdowns here, 16.5 right now. It's starting to sneak up a little bit too high. It feels like Troy's got experienced players, really just maybe not quite, maybe they're even. I don't know. I mean, we know Kansas State's the more, the bigger team, the bigger program. Troy coach 4-0 against the spread as an away dog last year, including covering against Ole Miss in the opener. So, maybe for me, Troy, I'm kind of leaning towards Troy. I kind of want to take Troy. I think Troy can get enough points here to make sure they can get that cover. All right. Kansas State can be dangerous at home. They're 6-1 against the spread on their last 7 as a home favorite. Can I really take this Troy team? I want to, and I think I'm going to end up doing so. I don't think anybody's going to comment here, but Thomas and me. Chad, where was one game? It was back about a half hour ago. Appreciate seeing you today, Chad. I'll just tell you if you want to go, but you go back and look at the video. Just talked about it a little bit. I talked the trends up in the game. I've got the under, and I think we had one member of the chat was on the dream. So appreciate you. All right, Thomas will take Kansas State. Thomas, you and I sat here all day. I've got my blue. You've got your blue. Let's do a challenge. You and I'll take Troy plus 16.5. I might even be able to get more later on, but I'm going to take him 16.5 with my good friend Thomas Lewis. Diddy, good to have you. You did a great job for me. Thank you. And I do kind of agree with this. I do agree totally with this, but I am going to probably sneak this one over. I don't think I'm going to give it out as a premium. I'm not even giving out here. I'm giving out Troy as my better play here at this point.